A lot of the headlines this week were stolen by your old pal Dwayne. There were a few reports that some people were a little upset with some of the creative liberties Dwayne was taking with being able to cuss whenever he wants to and say
Mhm.
whatever he wants to and do whatever he wants to. There was reports that standards and practices might not have been super thrilled with it. Uh, the Rock didn't seem to care too much because the final segment of Raw, he bloodied Cody Rhodes, bludgeoned him, and even dropped an F-bomb. So, what do you think of what Rocky's doing right now, man? I know you got a lot of respect and love for Dwayne. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I do, if I'm not mistaken. I think he responded to someone that had spoke about that report, and he said, "This is bullshit," something along those lines. I dig what he's doing. The fact that he is one of the biggest stars in the world when it comes to the acting gig, when it comes to Hollywood, he's had all these box office smash hits and whatnot, and he's killing it on that front. The fact that he's back at WWE, he's somewhat of a boss because now he's, sitting there with the rest of the boss when it comes to the TKO deal. The fact that he's making every show, I think, is a cool deal. And he is really invested in everything he's doing as far as this whole story and whatnot. And he's like pouring some classic rock into it. He's also keeping that story moving along. And the fact that he is fully committed about being a heel and not being afraid to be booed is something that I greatly respect about him, because I think there's some people in his position that would say like, well, I don't want to damage my popularity as an actor, or make people think that I'm like a bad person or a piece of shit or whatever. But he's kind of relinquished his fear of being an asshole and playing the gig as far as wrestling goes. So I like it. It's like every episode of Raw or SmackDown he appears on, it's like he's playing a bad guy in a movie, and he has totally adapted to that, and he's not worried about any backlash from it, which I think is very cool. I love the fact that they used this deal where he got very vicious with Cody. He beat the shit out of him. He fulfilled the prophecy. He made him bleed. He had the belt. He put blood on the belt, and the fact that Cody bled in that occasion, and I feel like it was done very right. Blood's something you don't see very often on WWE TV, obviously, especially over the last few years. But the fact that they did it and they positioned it in that way as the show went off, I thought it was very powerful, and it was a good use of blood.
It was very unique how, he came out and confronted Cody and he said something to him that was off microphone. And it was essentially, I'm going to make you bleed tonight. And you had to watch throughout the course of the show to see what the payoff of that was going to be, which
Right.
was really, really unique. And I thought that was very well done. My biggest problem with this, Matt,
Hmm.
and I've said to you, The Rock was like my guy. That was like my number one.
Yep.
Matt Hardy was up there, but like The Rock, that was my dude.
Yep.
And I love Dwayne. I love that he is trying to shove it up people's backsides that a lot of people would always get on, oh, your promos are very one-dimensional, you're playing the greatest hits and everything. He's clearly trying to do something very different. And I definitely appreciate that. The TV is super compelling. It's really, really good stuff. I feel Roman Reigns has totally taken a backseat to all of this. And the match we're building to is not Cody Rhodes versus The Rock. There is a match with Cody Rhodes and The Rock in it, that tag match, but the match is Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. We are allegedly headed towards potentially the big bad end of this 3.5 year title run for Roman Reigns. But who's to say? Maybe we're sitting the day after WrestleMania saying Cody should have won once again. We could be. But I just feel like Roman has kind of taken a backseat to The Rock. And maybe that's on purpose. Maybe that's a story beat that you follow in the future. But if we're building the biggest main event in WrestleMania history between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, I can't help but feel like I want to see Cody Rhodes versus The Rock more. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
Well, one thing I can say is that you're going to get Cody Rhodes versus The Rock in essence the first night in the tag match. So I like the fact that they're building that, but I do understand what you're speaking of, and that does make perfect sense. And I do feel like that. Like Rock has came in, he's been so good. He hadn't been around. It's like people are really digging what he's doing, and he really has almost like stole the spotlight from Roman in some ways, and I can understand that. But it also depends on how they end that night one deal. How they finish that will make a huge difference for the next 24 hours about how many people get excited to watch that match. I think we need a big week for Roman coming up the week before WrestleMania. I think we need to highlight Roman, bigger than shit. But Rock has just built so much momentum, and I think people are genuinely looking forward to this tag match. And one of the things that I think is very good about it, that people are even having this discussion right now, saying like, well, do people want Cody to fight Rock, or do people want Cody to fight Roman, whatever? Like that discussion of like, hold up, they kind of messed up this angle in the beginning because at first it was going to be Cody versus Roman, but then it was going to be Rock versus Roman, and then they kind of backtracked and they did all this and they changed. Like that talk is gone now, which I think is very good, which I'll give them credit for that. People have moved forward with what they're doing. And I think Rock has been so entertaining. He's been so good in his role. I think Cody is still killing it. I still love what Roman's doing. I think you have three powerful people.